Well, a couple weeks ago, I installed a rear disc brake kit for this 14 bolt rear end, and it was recommended at the time that you install a proportioning valve for the rear brakes. And I thought, I'm going to do an experiment and see just how bad the rear brakes lock up without a proportioning valve. Well, that's when I discovered that the early models, 73, 74, maybe 75, somewhere in there, they switched master cylinders, or they switched the master cylinder design. The early models have the rear brake reservoir on the front of the master cylinders. Typically, the newer styles are all in the rear. And so that's kind of how you can tell the difference. Now, this early style just doesn't have the amount of rear braking pressure that the newer styles have, which worked out okay on here. Like I said, it was recommended to have a proportioning valve, and I thought, well, that was kind of weird. Let's see why it's different or how different it is. Well, this one here doesn't seem like you needed it. However, well, let me just back up. I did some test driving with it, and I couldn't get the rear brakes to skid. They were working. They weren't locking up like in the gravel or at high speed on the road. I thought they would, skid. They didn't, and it stopped pretty good without skidding a tire, almost like an ABS system. However, I thought the brakes worked a little better prior to. Of course, we're going from drum to disc. There's going to be a variance in that in the way they brake, but disc brakes typically work a little better than drums. So I thought there could have been an issue there. But anyhow, it worked good. It was acceptable. I just thought it could be a little better. So I wanted to do something different with that. And during this time, I noticed that this master cylinder was leaking. So I thought, I'm going to change master cylinders. I'm going to get a newer style master cylinder put on here, which means I will have to relocate these brake lines front to rear. Not a big deal. But in doing that, and at that time, I will install my proportioning valve. I need to pull this loose. I'm just going to unbolt it here and pull it out where I can measure the back of the master cylinder and compare it to the newer style. So it shouldn't be that difficult at this point. And switching these lines is going to be easy. I believe these are the same size fittings. So for the proportioning valve on this, I'm pretty sure I will have to change the fitting to go into my proportioning valve. The proportioning valve accepts the smaller one, the smaller fitting. I did try to find an adapter to go from this down to the smaller one. I'm sure they're available, but nobody around here had one. So I'm just going to change the end here. That's kind of dinged up. I'll find a sweet spot here. But I'm sure I'll have to cut that off, uncoil a little bit of that, and put a new fitting on the end of it so that I can hook it up back here. You can see where it was leaking here, and that's what kind of made me think it's time to change that master cylinder. So this was a perfect time to do that during all this. So I'm going to get a wrench, pull these loose, and just pull this away to take my measurements. So this is what I'm concerned with. Yeah, those are about the same. Okay, that's good. There's hardly any difference between here and here, if there's any. If there's any difference, I don't see it there. And then it looked like, okay, I think we're okay here with this. I don't want to have any issues. However, oh, that's different. This is smaller. So I don't see a problem or any issues with installing this on there. It feels like or it looks with my meter here, or my gauge, with my ichrometer, looks like They're very compatible between these two here. I did notice I had a couple extra master cylinders from different projects. One came off of a hydro boost, and it looked different than a regular vacuum boosted master cylinder. So I think as long as I'm putting a vacuum boosted master cylinder on in replace of one, I'm not going to have any issues. But that's something to keep an eye out for. If you're just throwing parts on that you have, make sure you got the right one. So it feels like it's going to fit right. So I'm just going to move forward with it. I'm going to clean up this mess here where the brake fluid was leaking, because I don't want it all over everything. Right now I'm getting it all over me, so I don't like that. So anyhow, let's fix that. So I want to share a little piece of information with those of you that don't understand this. Brake fluid is a non-petroleum based product. So you have to be careful. You do not want to put hydraulic fluid, power steering fluid into your brake system. Or even if you have an urge to put a little grease around the seal of like the cap, don't do it. Any petroleum based oils that get into the system will ruin the system. Your master cylinder, even this cap, that's a way you can tell if it's had oil in it. The cap rubber will be distorted. But any petroleum products that get into the system will distort or destroy all the rubber seals in your calipers, your master cylinder, your brake cylinders, proportioning valves. Anything that has rubber in it in the system will get ruined. And you have to flush the system completely and replace all those parts. So you may have an urge to do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Be very careful not to get oil into your brake system. So this rear brake line basically would just hook on here, but I need to install a proportioning valve. So this is going to be out here afterwards. So in order to make all this work, I need to mount the proportioning valve on here and make a small line that goes from the master cylinder to the proportioning valve, which is only going to be about that long, maybe shorter. And then this will go on the outside, but I need to change this end. So this is my bracket, or proportion. This is the proportioning valve on a bracket, which I'm going to mount right here. And as you can see, that's pretty close to where where that's going to be really short. I could make it longer if I needed to, but that's going to go. So I'm going to go flare this, or cut it and flare it, and we'll get that back installed. Okay, so got this taken care of. Now there's a lot of different ways you could install your proportioning valve. It doesn't have to be like this. This is just what I chose to do, thinking it'd be more convenient. I'll tell you what would be really convenient is having this valve under the dash or inside, where you don't have to keep popping your hood to adjust that. I like where that's at. I should be able to reach it pretty easy. it that tight, didn't I? Yep. Okay. All right. So this is what I was talking about. I need to put this small fitting on here. And I tried to find an adapter fitting to go from this down, and I couldn't find one. Not that they're not available, but nobody around here had one. So I just decided I would shorten this line up. Just try to make this straight-ish so I can put my hand in here. So I'm going to cut this off and put that fitting on there and flare it and mount it. Find a spot that doesn't have a dent and ding in it. Yeah, I guess anywhere back here is fine. I don't want to cut a whole lot off of here, but I am going to cut a little bit off. Okay. See if I can give this whole thing a little twist without kinking or breaking anything. Okay, I got it all hooked up the way I want it. I tried bleeding it out. Fluid's not flowing through this valve like I thought it would. So I've got the lines all hooked up, and I was going to just crack the bleeder valves open and just let it gravity bleed, but I don't know if it's going to gravity bleed through that. I'm going to try that. If that doesn't work, I'll just get an extra foot to help me bleed this out, and then we'll figure it out from there. I just don't know, but I need to get it bled out. I know I have air between here and here. There's air in the line, and I got to get all that air out because it just won't work right without it. The front is going to have very minimal air, but it probably has air in it too. So, but anyhow, got to do that. I put the cap on, but the gravity bleed, I need to take the cap off. So I'm going to pull that back off. Try not to pinch my fingers. These suckers will bite you if you're not careful. Okay, new development. See the stamping on here, out and in? That's wrong. There's a sticker here on the side that I overlooked. And according to that sticker, that is the in, not the out. So I just reversed the position of that. And I've got fluid going through the thing now. So Eva was out here last night helping me bleed this thing out, and I couldn't get any fluid to the back. And the reviews on this, most of them were good. But there was a few that complained about it leaking and bad. These little brass fittings they're a cheap brass. I don't know what kind of brass they are, but it's just a junky brass. Anyhow, they complained about the fittings and leaking. This has an O-ring right here that the one that came in it was too big and just squished out. And I was sure it was going to leak there, so I replaced that with a little smaller one, sealed it up. I don't have any problems there. And then as far as the fluid not flowing through it, it's because it's backwards. So So far, so good. I'm gravity bleeding it out now, and I'm gonna have Eva come out here in a little bit, and we'll pedal bleed it, and then I can test it. So problem fixed, but be aware, I did order a replacement Eastwood brand, and if this works out, I'm just gonna return that one. No need to replace it if it's working. So now we're just gonna get it bled out completely, and then we can test it. Well, it's starting to bleed out now. That's good. I'm just gonna let her drip for a while. Well, I did have a problem. My first test run, trying to bleed the brakes. I don't know why this didn't happen before I put that proportioning valve in up by the master cylinder. I don't know why. I just got lucky the first couple of tests. But today, my first test, the first pass, I didn't have any trouble. But as soon as I got the second pass, I had opened the valve up or closed the valve off one full turn, which I don't think had anything to do with it, but it tripped the switch in here and flipped the valve into the safety position. The light was on, the valve was closed, which meant I had brake pressure behind the valve. It's a safety feature, which is great. I don't know why you need it in a dual reservoir master cylinder, because if you lose the brake line, well, it's designed, if you lose the brake line, it closes this off and preserves what's in the master cylinder, but it's a separate pot, so I don't know why you really need it. It's there. It's probably a DOT thing. However, anyways, because of the amount of flow that the calipers needed, it tripped this. It read that there was zero pressure behind it, I think is why. So anyhow, I took this apart and I took this apart and gutted it. Took all the guts out of here. I've talked to several people and read that it was a possibility, and my son has done like 3 of these, and he said every time he's had to do this, same thing. Going from a drum to disc, this is probably going to be, I'm betting this is something you're going to have to do regardless, especially on these older rigs. Anyhow, this should take care of the problem. I'll have flow without any issues. I don't even think that light will come on now without the switch in here, without that valve. So anyhow, time for a test. Well, I finally got it to work, and it's working good. I did have to do a couple of test runs. I adjusted the valve down 5 full turns, got it to where it was just barely locking up, which is good because I think I'd like to know that they're working. But they weren't skidding like they were the first 4 go rounds. And maybe 6, I stopped at 5 just because it felt good, felt really good. Maybe 6 would be better. And I can always give it one more turn, or later messing with it, I can just give it half turns, another full turn, whatever. But I'm all done with it finally. So I did have some issues. I had an issue with the proportioning valve. I got this cheap one, and I was having trouble with it, and I ordered a Wilwood, and it's supposed to be here in a couple of days. I don't know why it took so long to get here, but it's whatever. Shipping, you never know. But anyhow, I got this one working. I mentioned it earlier. I had to totally reverse it from the way it was stamped to go in, and it was just because of that sticker. The only reason I thought to try it. But looking at it and designs of some of the other ones, they're very similar in design. The way they come in and go out, they're not even across; they're offset. And the offset on the other ones where they say in and out is the same. So I don't know why that was that way. But reversing it fixed the problem, and I was able to adjust it and get it to work. So that was a little problem I had to overcome, but I did. It's working. The other thing was, well, I had to make that fit. I had to make some changed fittings and lines and this and that. It wasn't that big a deal. And the other thing was original equipment proportioning valve. When I pulled out here to do my first test on it, it locked up. The warning brake light came on the dash, and the brakes were locked up. They weren't fully locked up, but they were locked up. It was a struggle getting it into the shop here. And the only reason I could think that it would even do that was the amount of flow going to the calipers versus the brake reservoir or the brake cylinders was a lot more flow, and there was probably too much flow for that system, so it tripped it and sealed that valve and locked the brakes up. As soon as I cracked that line to open it up, it sprayed and released that pressure, and so I knew it was in that OE proportioning valve. But this proportioning valve, the OE one, I did have to go in and take all the goodies out of the rear brake line side of it, and it was super simple. And this is what I pulled out. It's an O-ring spring, and this is the valve. So anyhow, it wasn't that hard. Well, yeah, it wasn't that hard. And the only reason I thought to even do that was I've heard about it, and one of my boys has done it 3 times, and 2 of which he installed rear disc brakes and rigs, and it required gutting that, and that took care of the problem. My lights, my warning light's not on. Warning brake light went out. I'm getting more than enough, or I'm getting plenty of flow through there, so there's just nothing there now, so it's flowing like it should. Brakes are working good. It was 5 full turns, and like I say, I could go 6, but 5 felt really good, so I'm stopping there. I can't think of anything else. Master cylinder I changed, proportioning valve, how I hooked it up, and the OE proportioning valve. Yeah, that's it. Brakes are good. I like it. So I don't know if there's any questions that I didn't cover. If you have a question, just ask. I'll answer them. Yeah. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. And we'll catch up with you later. Bye.